TikTok burns out a lot faster than Google. Meta's probably somewhere in the middle. So there's some platforms that just demand fresh content all the time. And there's some platforms where, the content or the creative's not driving it as much, and you might get a longer life cycle.
Stop and don't spend another single cent on advertising until you listen to this. I'm Marianne Amies. This is Ready, Set, Paid Ads, digital marketing for paid ad success. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Ready, Set, Paid Ads. In today's episode, we're going to talk about what to do to stop your ads from fatiguing. So it's all about the creative refresh. When we run ads, we know that they have a life cycle. They have a life cycle of learning, optimizing, and then performing. But what we also often find is they have a life cycle of fatiguing. So everything is going along really well. And then all of a sudden, our ads start to just not do what they were doing before. You see that ad performance sliding, your cost per click, your CTRs, everything is going in the wrong direction. And to be honest, you're not being punished by the algorithm. It's pretty much a sign that your ads are just getting tired. So today we're going to run through what are the signs of fatigue. We're going to look at how to reset your visuals and messaging, and also how to create a system so that you can test and measure and know what ads to pull, what to test next, and what ads are your top performers. So let's dive in. What are the signs of ad fatigue? Basically, when your audience sees your ad too many times, and especially if it's not performing, you're going to have ad fatigue. So sometimes you might put some shoes in the cart that you wanted to buy, and then you decide you're not going to buy them. And if that e-com's retargeting ads are set to, too high a budget, too small an audience, you get retargeted with those shoes too many times. And the first time you go on and you open up and it's the first ad, you're like, oh, they're those shoes that I decided I wasn't going to get. But the third and fourth time that you're getting targeted with those same shoes or that same 10% off offer, you kind of just get sick of it and you switch off. And that's really what ad fatigue is. It can also be when somebody's ads are just in your feed too much and it didn't grab you the first time and it's not grabbing you the fifth and sixth time that you saw it. So why it matters is that as that performance drops, so, you're getting less click-throughs, you're getting less conversions, you're wasting your budget. You're spending money possibly, especially if it's something like an awareness campaign to be seen, or if it is a conversion campaign, your cost of conversion becomes so high because there's so much activity that has to happen before you record one conversion. So the attribution of the ad spend to that conversion just creeps up. That it affects your overall metrics. It affects how well you think you're doing in ads, and honestly, how those ads are generating revenue for your business. Can also find that the algorithm deprioritizes you. So even as an ad, you're competing for airspace against other ad stock. And when you're a high quality ad, you're going to get shown in the feed more. The platform wants you to succeed. The platform wants the best ad to succeed. And if that's routinely not you, you're also going to get deprioritized in that paid ad stock as well. So some common signs that your ad might be in fatigue is a falling click-through rate or engagement rate. So when you launched your ads, if most of your creatives were getting 3 and 5% click-through and you were really happy with that, but now they're around the 1 or below 1, that's a massive drop off. And you're going to want to investigate why that click-through rate is dropping and is it ad fatigue. If you're starting to notice that your ROAS is dipping, even though you have the same budget, you're not getting that return anymore, that could be telling you that your ads are fatiguing. Or if you start getting comments on your ads like, why am I seeing this? Seeing this a million times. Stop giving me this ad. From those delightful human beings, which I feel like live more on Facebook than anywhere else. That's also a great sign that your ad might be fatiguing. So when we talk about ad fatigue and creative fatigue, We're talking about a lack of engagement with your ad where maybe there was strong engagement before. So let's talk about the life cycle of an ad creative. Every creative has a lifespan. Some last weeks, some last days, and to be honest, some last months. If, like me, you find yourself in the Facebook ads library, researching ideas, looking at what people are doing, you will see in there how long an ad has been running. And often you will know a business's secret sauce if you find an ad in their account that's been running for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Because the truth is, most ads fatigue and they fatigue in weeks, they fatigue certainly within a month. And if there's a company running an ad for 5 months and they have no other ads, I'd say they're probably just not managing very well. But if they have one ad that's 5 months old and a lot of recent ads, it tells you something about that old ad. There's some secret sauce in that ad and it has not fatigued. So, what's going to impact that fatigue? Funnily enough, the audience size can really impact it. And as I touched on before with that retargeting, if you have a high retargeting budget and a really small retargeting audience, your audience or the people that make it into that audience are going to actually be hit with that ad a lot. So that small audience size can start to mean that the ad fatigues. Even if you have a small audience size and you're not retargeting, you're limiting the people or the pool that Meta can show your ad to. And when you limit the pool of who Meta can show your ad to, it again means that the people seeing it are probably going to get a bit sick of it if they're not converting, if it's not winning them over. And that comes into frequency. So, frequency is the measure that we look at of how often a person has seen our ads. So if reach is our unique views, impressions is our total views, frequency is reach into impressions. And I'll get into kind of what's good frequency and what's bad frequency, but that frequency of exposure is going to have a big role in the life cycle of that ad creative. And then the platform, TikTok burns out a lot faster than Google. Meta's probably somewhere in the middle. So there's some platforms that just demand fresh content all the time. And there's some platforms where, the content or the creative's not driving it as much, and you might get a longer life cycle. So we have to kind of think about creative performance degrading over time, but not all at once. Sometimes it can be a really subtle shift week in, week out until it's all gone. And then sometimes it can be that it does so well in the first 2 weeks and then almost is touched by nobody after that. So having a look at each individual creative that you put out and really observing how it performs can help you start to understand in your business what sort of creative has the legs to stick and stay, and what sort of creative you need to be updating all the time. So let's talk about a creative refresh cycle. So, an approach. Put in place a system in your business where you're going to monitor, you're going to rotate, and you're going to create enough variations to make sure that you have a way of refreshing that content, refreshing that creative, and really, I guess, making sure that your ads don't fatigue, that you have a strategy in place. So, the first part of our refresh cycle is going to be looking at our analytics on a weekly basis and looking at it at the ad level. So, rather than the campaign level or the ad set level, I want to get down to the ad level because I want to understand how each creative combination, so that's the creative asset plus the headline plus the copy, how that's performing. And if that's in a Google campaign, you might want to look at that on the PMATS level or on the kind of headlines and ad copy level of a search campaign. TikTok, Meta, LinkedIn, you've got more of that three-part structure of campaign ads at ads. So let's get down to the ads level. And every week at that ad set creative level, let's be looking at the CTR, so the click-through rate, the frequency, and the conversion rate. So the click-through rate is a great indicator of engagement. When we have a high click-through rate, it means our creative is landing, it's connecting, we're getting the outcome we wanted. The frequency is going to be interesting. And in my experience, we've had clients have a lot of success and high ROAS with high frequency creative, you really need to see that with a grain of salt. So you might find in your business a frequency is 2 is the stage in the funnel that people need to convert. Or you might find that it's when it gets to 5 or 6 where people have, what we would think seen it too many times, that's when they start to convert. So you need to create some benchmarks around frequency that are right for your business based on past data and insights, and also your kind of intuition around the sort of business model that you have. And then we have the conversion rate. So the conversion rate is looking at the actual end result, how people converted. So looking not just at the clicks, but are they actually converting? We don't just want to get a whole bunch of click throughs and nobody checks out or buys or books, because that means we're getting the wrong people. So we want to watch those metrics at the ad creative level, and we want to watch that every week. So we have a really good understanding of how that's changing. We have a really good understanding of the impact that that's having, and we can start to work out which creative needs to be retired, which creative needs to be rotated in, and what we're going to test next. So the second part of your creative refresh cycle is really around rotating hooks and formats. So rotating between problem versus solution messaging, rotating between testimonial versus lifestyle, rotating between static versus UGC or EGC style video. So, we want to take a concept and put it out in multiple formats and see how that performs. So if we have a testimonial, let's run a graphic testimonial versus a video testimonial versus maybe a video of the product with a testimonial overlaid. So we can start to see, how does the testimonial concept work for us? And if we're testing that versus lifetime, we had lifestyle content, we have some variations to test. So we don't just want to test the what, we also want to test the how. It's kind of like we can't just test one tiny thing and make big decisions. So if we're testing a concept or a hook type, and then we test it through different formats, and we make that our consistent testing protocol each time, we then start to collect a lot of meaningful data where we can compare and contrast, and that's really important. And then creating that in batches with variations. So again, we want to make sure if our concept that we're testing this week is around testimonials, and we know that we want to test that in a couple of video formats and in a carousel format, for example, we then want to play with some headlines, visuals, and CTAs. So we might actually end up with 12 creative combinations. So if we pick 3 headlines, we want to see those 3 headlines back against the video, back against the carousel, back against the product video. So this gives us a formula to say, not only are we testing the hook, but we're testing the format, and then we're multiplying that out by headlines. We want to be testing multiple different things. And as long as you have enough budget for the breadth of creative to get enough airplay and get some runs on the board, if you've got a smaller budget, I'd probably maybe test 2 concepts and 2 headlines against that hook. But we want enough information to guide us on the next step. And again, you want a routine of that so that every week you're leaving the best performing creatives in place and you're testing your new batch. And then from that, you might have a couple of winners, and then you might leave those on and test them against the previous week's best winners. And in a week's time, trim back and start a whole new concept as well. So it's not to say that every week you need to be creating new. I think you can create new. You can test it against best performers, and then you can test best versus best, and then you can create new again. So maybe you're creating new in every 2-week cycles. And as agencies now, that creative testing and that creative generation is a huge piece of the work that we do. Depending on your agency agreement, a lot of agencies now, like my own, we are the ones that are creating the videos, we're creating the visuals, we're writing the copy, we're writing the headlines. So, if someone is not asking you about more creative, if someone's not coming to you with creative ideas, you need to be questioning if they're actually looking at ad fatigue and if they're looking at ways to make sure your creative stays fresh so that your results are sustainable. So it doesn't all have to be heavy legwork. There are obviously fantastic AI tools now that can help you with this and that can help you move through testing and at least batching content faster. So you've got adcreative.ai. So in this platform, you can update your brand elements, you can get dozens of tested layouts. It's really good for quick refreshes when you're low on time. You obviously have to look and try to find versions that don't feel same and try to find output that still feels on brand for you. But this can still be something that can help you generate new product mock-ups and new campaign layouts without you at the tools doing it yourself. There's also Pencil, and Pencil is AI that suggests creative based on your top performing ads. So a great one to integrate your analytics with and then let it suggest to you what you should be testing next. And that's going to help you with the ideas to fuel that creative testing process. You've got Meta Dynamic Creative. So Meta will automatically test combos of copy, images, CTAs. Just keep an eye on it. I think anytime you let Meta do anything with AI, you need to kind of keep it on a choke lead. Just keep an eye on it. But definitely, I mean, we all use that now for headlines. We'll definitely upload multiple headlines against any one image. If you're testing multiple creatives, just keep the headline options the same against it. So if you've got 5 creatives in one place, bring the 5 headlines across all creatives. So that you've got consistency. What you want to avoid is scattergun testing, where you have nothing in common across your tests and you don't learn enough about what may have triggered the desired outcome that you got. And then there's our old mate ChatGPT. And look, ChatGPT does a great job of things like repurposing winning hooks with different angles. So take your best performing CTA, take your best performing copy, pop it into chat and just ask it to give you different angles. Like, what if I want to make this more emotional? What if I wanted to make it more curious? I love to do volume as well. So, like, give me 20 ideas off this hook and then give it a bit about your product, tell it a bit of background. It's like if you ask it for 3, you've got 3 to choose from, but it costs you nothing to ask for 20. And then that gives you more variety and you can pick through and find what feels really on brand for you. Obviously, if you are going to use ChatGPT, do yourself the favor and build a bot that knows your brand voice, that knows your brand purpose, that understands your ideal client. So it knows everything about you and is obviously better equipped to be able to act and sound like your business as opposed to generic. And I think we've seen recently that ChatGPT was starting to get a little bit too over the top and they've rolled that back a little in the newest update. But anything you can do to let the platform know more about your business and who your business is or the tone of your business is going to make it a lot more relevant for you as well. So, when it comes to creative, as I mentioned, we spend a lot of time now managing creative for clients, ideating, creating, whether that be hands on content or whether that be graphic assets and that sort of thing as well. And I wanted to give an example. We run lead generation campaigns for a building client. And when we started out, we worked on one type of carousel that was really focused around their key services, broke down their approach and what they were about. And we got 8 leads pretty quick in that campaign, but the cost per lead was over $100. In our next month of testing and rolling out some new campaigns, we tried a video. And in that video, we showcased a little bit more of their expertise, a little bit more of their team. And in that time frame, in that month that followed, we got 14 leads, but we actually got the cost per lead down to $50. So through that creative, when we launched that first campaign, in the first couple of weeks, we saw The majority of those leads come through. And then we saw that ad fatigue. We saw the results drop off. We saw it get sluggish and we knew it was time for new creative. And when we rolled out that creative, we saw the results. So, I think it's really important to look at that data and challenge yourself, because even good results can always be better. And there's nothing to stop you from testing and trying to. I like to think of it with a competitive mindset. Like, I'm always trying to be the best performer. When I have a best performer, I think there might still be results that are better than this. So then you've got your prevention plan, your ongoing creative system. So, thinking about that creative system that we said, you're obviously looking at your analytics every week. Maybe every fortnight, you're making decisions about creative. Planning ahead. So not waiting for that analytics data to tell you the ad's fatigued, always having 2 to 3 backup creatives before you launch. Even if you're launching a big campaign and in the first week, the creative seems to just fatigue or doesn't seem to connect, you don't want to lose another 2 to 3 weeks organizing a shoot, planning EGC, finding creators, and getting so far behind. You want that to happen within days of realizing those ads have fatigued or those ads haven't landed. So having a backup and thinking about always looking for new concepts, shotting things you're seeing, looking at Facebook ads library, using those AI tools for ideation, having a library, a bank of ideas, looking at your audiences as well and thinking about warm audiences versus cold audiences and how you can rotate different creatives through them. That's going to also help you. There might be a creative that you use at top of funnel that later you can use at mid funnel, but you just need to tweak it in a couple of different ways to make it more conversion focused or to get them to take that first step with you. So I think it's really important to be in that process of a creative refresh cycle, but also arming yourself with creative on tap and certainly ideas and inspiration on tap that you can keep coming back to. And again, if you're working with an agency, I'd be wanting them to tell you every month in your report what their ideas are, or they should be asking you for what they want to see next from you, video ideas, or they want to come out and shoot, or they want to know if you've got more product photos that look a certain way. That ongoing creative development and creative improvement, as we know now, is one of the biggest levers we can pull in ad success. So ads fatigue, it's normal, but it is fixable. Don't settle for dropped back performance thinking that it's just part and parcel with a business that's been running for a while or a product that's been selling for a while. We can shake it up. We can create ways, especially in e-commerce. Make yourself a marketing calendar and plan what your focuses are, how you're going to bring excitement back to existing products, how you're going to make the most out of launches, how you're going to take part in the sales periods that you take part in. Build creative variation into your strategy. Ads are not a set and forget. You can't turn them on and walk away. You can't rely on Performance Max. You can't rely on Advantage Plus. You need to be feeding these machines the right creative and enough creative volume for them to get you the best results. Watch your metrics, look for when things are dropping, rotate your hooks, and lean into the AI tools that are going to make this more time effective for you as well. I hope you've really enjoyed and taken a lot out of this episode. If you would like a free copy of that creative refresh checklist, please DM me refresh on Instagram, or I'll pop a link in the show notes as well. And that's going to be a really handy tip and a handy guide for you to keep going back to as you refresh your creative over time. But I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope it's inspired you to get more creative and to say no to ads fatigue, because it doesn't have to be the inevitability of your ads campaigns.
That's a wrap on another episode of Ready, Set, Paid Ads. If you're looking for done-for-you services, training to upskill you in ads management, or free and paid resources to help you plan and execute better ads, head to wiseupmarketing.com.au. If you've loved this episode, be sure to subscribe for future episodes. And if you know someone that would love this podcast too, go on and share it.